Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining our payments automation webinar. I'm Andy Howarth and I'm Product Manager at AccessPay, and with me is Jack Clancy, who's our Implementation Manager. So we're going to talk about some of the benefits of payment automation and how to implement successfully for your project. So today's topic, we're going to look at what is payment automation. So what are the benefits of automating payments processes within your organisation, how the solution works, and then Jack's going to cover beginning the journey, so how do we pick up a payments automation project, what are the implementation stages typically that AccessPay would provide for getting you on board and up and running with payments automation, and then once you're live, what happens then? So what's the aftercare and what kind of benefits will you get at that stage? And at the end we'll have some time for questions, so feel free to pop them into the chat box as part of the WebEx. So what is payments automation? So it's moving away from using online banking, manual payment entry or file preparation to reduce risk, inefficiencies and cost within your organisation. So at AccessPay we see the whole payment cycle as part of automation, not just the initiation but the whole cycle from reconciliation, cash management and forecasting. So it's how do we instruct payments to the bank, how do we get your instruction through to the bank without manual intervention and lots of time needed from your staff. It's what can we automate for reconciliation, so you've made your payments, you've received confirmation that they're settled, what now, what can we do to help you improve efficiencies for your reconciliation processes. And as part of that, what kind of forecasting can we assist with? So cash management forecasting, giving you analytics and data insights into your accounts and the activity over them. So some of the key benefits to automation is streamlining your banking network connectivity. So reduce time, effort and risk and the expenses of payment processing through many portals, having different staff inputting, verifying and approving payments in the various online portals you might have. It can be a bit of a maze to navigate multiple bank channels. It also sets you up well for growth and scalability, so increasing payment traffic and volumes in your organisation doesn't have to cause you headaches. You don't have to worry about the staffing costs of implementations if the payment process itself is automated. It also makes it much quicker to implement new payment channels and banking partners. If you're connecting through one single payments automation solution, you can hand over some of that work to onboard new banks and set up new accounts for your payment activity. So this is a quick diagram which is very representative of the process flow today and the problem with manual payment processing. So typically you're going to have back-end systems and like a TMS treasury management system or ERPs producing multiple different file formats out to process payments. Now that might need an email sign-off from a financial director or processor, whether that's to input the payment, to verify it and approve it. There's a lot of hand-holding there and manual interaction from the staff. And then you've still got to get that payment file that your system generated into the banking portal. Now as we know, banks typically don't have the most friendly of user interfaces and they expect files to be received in their proprietary formats. So again, that's more work to prepare that file, adding risk and manual touch points to the process. Once it's all done, you export your files through to the bank, the payments settle, and then you wait for a process of offline reconciliation. So does that involve next day downloads of statements by your staff to then reconcile against your TMS and ERP ledgers? Or do you have an automated process in place? The chances are that's going to be manual. Downloading statements, having users tick across those items and manually reconcile your accounts. So as we mentioned, there are obvious drawbacks to using banking channels. So not every bank has a standard portal and input type required for their formats. So typically that's because the banks are running on decades old technology. They have systems that are incumbent to their processes, they need the formats that they receive into their systems, because again, they don't want to manually repair your items. They don't want to have to deal with bad format from their customers, so their focus is really on high levels of automation in their platform rather than the end user experience of entering the payments into their channels. It also means that you're going to have multiple access credentials for your staff. Each bank portal is going to need a different user access and access control. So you're going to have to authenticate and manage that process. There's also some concept of bank and account consolidation that you can get as a benefit of automating payments. So take the time of having this project to actually review your workflows and your cash network. Do you really need all the bank accounts that you have? Do you have some accounts which are relatively inactive and dormant that you've been having processes around for a long time, but could potentially consolidate that activity through to a different provider to provide you a better payment workflow. So what's the automated solution? So it's an integrated solution where your back-end systems integrate through to a payment automation provider such as AccessPay. So as you can see on the left-hand side, you'd have direct connectivity for your TMS and ERP or any back-end applications, but also a uniform platform for your users to access as well. They don't need to keep accessing these proprietary bank channels. It gives you control and access from one platform and one point of entry. So within the AccessPay environment, you're going to have different role-based user access. So you can specify whether a user can input, approve, or whether they're an admin, again giving you more control over your payment activities and mitigating that risk of fraud and error. Alongside that, you've got cache analytics and all the different validations that a payments automated solution can provide. So just to touch on a few of the security enhancements that you can get from a payments automation solution. The bank channels typically won't validate anything other than that your transaction's accepted and they'll process it over your account. They don't really offer any insight into risk and fraud around that. Whereas an AccessPay solution, for example, would allow you to check for duplicate transactions, any currencies in there that aren't expected in the file, along with destination countries. So are you completing a payroll file in UK pound sterling and for some reason there could be a euro or a JPY transaction in there, that can be alerted to you. Again, the volumes of transactions and the monetary value, any fluctuations in that can be alerted, and unrecognised beneficiaries and suppliers. If you have a regular list of beneficiaries and suppliers, it makes sense to alert users and alert systems if any payments deviate from that standard list. Once we get to the channels themselves, again, AccessPay or the payment automation solution provides that single gateway out to your banks, whether that's via a host-to-host solution, a Swift solution, eBix, or direct to scheme and channels such as SEPA, FPS and BACS. It's still one point and one gateway, removing the risk of multiple channels. And then we will provide bank-ready, bank-grade payment formats that removes the headache of needing to format from your users. So these are all beneficial to the business through automation. So these are the kind of questions that we get asked around people looking for solutions of automation. You're going to be looking to automate the reconciliation processes for treasury activity or accounts payables and receivables. So do you want real-time cash visibility and liquidity reporting and the ability to forecast any currency positions that you might hold? It's this concept of data harmonization as well, having all your data in a single point. From the security and control perspective, consolidation and automation of payment instructions creates efficiencies and reduces the risk of any errors. And the fraud control tools that are available that the banks just don't have, you can mitigate risk further. So to recap, the entire payment cycle can benefit from automation. From the integration of your ERP and TMS with automated straight-through processing, from roles-based profiles enhancing that workflow that your users operate, fraud and error detection, and again the multi-scheme, multi-currency payments allow the payments automation software to deal with the channels directly for you. And in terms of data insights and cash and liquidity management, you can look at intraday liquidity and balance tools, anything that you need from a forecast balance perspective as well. The other benefit you'll get from integrating a payments automation solution is getting yourself ready for any payment technology and innovation. So you may have heard of something called Swift GPI, which is a real buzz thing in the financial technology space right now. Gearing up for payment automation can have you ready for Swift GPI when that becomes available from the banks. So I'll hand over to Jack, who's going to talk about the onboarding journey for a payments automation project.
Thanks, Andy. Good afternoon, everyone. So what I would just like to begin with is a warm welcome to AccessPay. Now, this is what all our customers receive once they join the world of AccessPay. It's a warm handover from the sales team to my own team, the implementation team. This is normally done via an informal telephone conversation, and where we have introductions with our customers, the implementation team, and we give a high-level overview of what you can expect on the onboarding process with AccessPay. We'll give a high-level overview of the process and arrange the next steps to take your implementation forward. Through the whole implementation process here at AccessPay, communication is key to the success. No doubt you've experienced this yourself in many internal projects and external projects of your own. Without clear lines of communication, you can often see these projects fall to the wayside or slow down. With Access Pay, you can expect a weekly progress call. Now this can be with an Access Pay consultant and your own project manager. It could be with the project sponsor or all parties involved. Once we have the weekly progress calls, we will also provide a progress report after that call as well. And this can be used to track any key deliverables and ensure that the project runs smoothly. Whilst working through the project process, there may be times where we need to increase the frequency of calls and updates, and the main period where this comes into play is during testing and go live. We often find that the testing phase or stage could be very labour intensive and for the customer. So what we like to do is have a call in the morning to plan the day's activities and what we hope to achieve, and at the end of the day we can have an update just to see if we have met those targets and what the next steps are. And once we have finished our testing, the next stage would be to have a full handover to live support and our service delivery team. So the project phase here at Access Pay is split into 3 different phases. The first of those being the discovery phase. The aim of the discovery is to understand the overall project and client vision for you, the customer. We like to define roles, responsibilities, and understand what resources we have at hand to help us plan the project smoothly. The information gathered at this point is key to ensure the project runs as smooth as possible, and we also identify any key deliverables and any potential road bumps. We want this project to run as smoothly as possible, so this is a very important phase for us. And once we've completed the discovery, we will then provide you with a key milestone plan to help you track progress and also to help maintain accountability. Key steps in the discovery stage is a discovery workshop, data collection and bank engagement. We'll now take a look at what forms our discovery workshop. This will be a session that can be held on site with you, the customer, or via a WebEx or telephone conference call. And what we like to do in this workshop is establish visibility and control and ensure any potential barriers to the onboarding are flushed out earlier on. Several different components will make up the workshop, and we'll look at each individual component now. The first item we will cover is resources, and this is the resource that's available to you, the customer. We often find that if a customer comes to us with sufficient resource, the project should run smoothly. So this would normally be a dedicated project manager, a project sponsor who is fully on board and ready to drive the project forward. We often require input from ops managers within your customer organisation. These will be involved when it comes to testing, so they form a very key role. And also we need to review what IT resources are available. Depending on the nature of your project and how much automation you require, there may be more input needed from your IT resource. The next item we'll look at is the process. So this is where we will discuss what you expect the Access Pay system to perform for you. We understand there'll be full automation you may be looking for, or just semi-automation, but we need to know what this process is to help begin putting together your workflows and your customization. Moving on, we always like to identify what third parties are involved in the project. We will never go into a project assuming that it will just be the client, you the customer, involved. We often see that there could be third parties involved for IT. Some people outsource their IT to other companies, so we will need to obtain a contact within that third party to make sure we're all on track and at the same point in the project. We also often see that your ERP provider or developer may be required to perform development work on your files that you'll be providing to us. So we like to identify who these third parties are and make sure they are involved at every stage they need to be. Moving on, we would look at the technical aspects and the technical impact that this will have on you, the customer. Whilst you may have an existing process and existing technical requirements with your current supplier, we will need to examine and determine whether these will deviate from your existing process and what needs to be put in place to work with us here at Access Pay. So this is where your IT resource will come into play and help. We'll have a 2 or 3 way conversation and hopefully identify these requirements as soon as possible. Another key stage to look at here in the discovery phase is the users. Here at Access Pay we do perform testing and training and testing with your users, but what we like to understand is what is the level of knowledge your users have. We would never assume that your users are subject matter experts in the field of payment automation, but we'd like to have an understanding of what level of knowledge they have. So when it comes to the training sessions we provide, we can tailor them to the level of knowledge that we are working with and give them the right tools that they need to use the Access Pay system efficiently. And the final stage that we look at in the discovery workshop is the strategy and why you have chosen Access Pay as your provider. By understanding this, we can make suggestions on how you can use our system more efficiently. We have completed the process with many other clients in the past, and no doubt we'll be completing the same process with many other clients in the future. So we have gained an insight and insider knowledge on what process people do and the best way to use the Access Pay system. So we can help you to improve your strategy and the reasons for using Access Pay. So once the discovery stage has been completed, we'll then move on to the next stage in your implementation, which is the build. At this stage, we will be in continued consultation with you, the customer, to make sure that we are configuring your system correctly and as per your requirements. Key steps in this stage include setting up bank connectivity, file transformation, and workflow configuration. There will be, at this stage, we use the information that you provided during the discovery phase to set up your system. Whilst we hope to get everything right the first time, what you will see in this stage is that we will be in touch with you quite frequently, just to run over what we've done so far and to make sure the build is meeting the expectations and what you need to complete your role on a day-to-day basis. We also have discussions with your bank, and this is to establish connectivity, which is basically the flow that Andy has talked about in some of his previous slides, where the file is delivered from Access Pay to your bank, it will be processed, and then we'll receive some reconciliations reports back into Access Pay, which we can deliver on to you again. I see the key phase in this stage is file transformation. The more work we put into file transformation in the build stage, the less work there will be later on down the line in testing and go live. So we'll just go into that in a bit more detail now. So here we've got a relatively straightforward diagram that gives you a rough idea of the flow that Andy's talked about in terms of a number of different back office systems delivering to a number of different banks. So starting on the left hand side, we've got 3 different systems there. One of them may be your system that you've had within your company for quite a number of years. There could be another system which has been brought into your company via a merger or an acquisition. It could be a legacy-based system which you don't have the resource to update at this time. So what that means is that customers come to us with a variety of different file formats. As Andy mentioned, you could have a .text, MT101, CSV, or an XML pane file. But what we do here at Access Pay is we pick up those files and turn them into the bank-ready files for you. So as you can see on the right-hand side there, we could be delivering MT101s to one bank and pane 001 files to the remainder of your bank. So those are credit files from one bank to another. Basically, we complete the transformation so you don't have to. And then the final stage in the 3-stage implementation is the test and go live. Now each part of this stage involves a varying amount of input from you, the customer. We have manual file testing, we'll complete training in this stage. There is your own customer user acceptance testing, or UAT for short. We'll have bank sign off and then penny testing over live connection, and finally go live. The aim of this phase is to ensure that the build has been completed correctly and all your files can be delivered and processed correctly by your banks. We'll now look at the 4 phases of testing within this stage. So number 1 is a manual file testing. So in terms of input required by you, the customer, at this point, it is very little. So what we will do here is we will take your input files you provide to us, as mentioned at the start of file transformation. We will complete that transformation and then test them with your banks. Usually this is at first done by email, and secure email might add as well, and then it would be carried out in what we call a My Standards platform, which just checks the structural validations within the file. Once we're happy and we've got sign off that the manual file testing has come back positive and we're good to go, we will then proceed with connectivity testing. So there will be no input required from you, the customer, at this point. Connectivity testing is basically ensuring that we can deliver a file from the Access Pay through to your bank, and that the build work we completed on the connection has been done correctly, and the bank can also return files to us. Next is the most labour intensive part of testing. This is where it comes to customer UAT. This is the point where you will test the end-to-end process for all payment types and all workflows which have been configured. This should be driven by you, the customer. However, we will provide input on the test plan you might want to use. You will also receive input from your bank on what testing is expected, as they will have their own internal requirements and SLAs which they must meet for testing. Basically, we like you to complete as comprehensive testing as possible at this point, because the more testing that's completed now, when we move on to the next stage, there shouldn't be anything that stops you from going live and completing the penny test. So the final stage of testing is the penny test. Now this is almost a carbon copy of the customer UAT testing, except that is in the live environment, and you will just make a nominal payment from your accounts to a beneficiary, hence the name penny testing. Once this has been completed, your bank will normally request formal sign-off via email or on a phone call with all parties involved. But once the penny testing has been completed, you are good to go live. So what happens next? Once you are live and you've completed all penny testing, you will then enter what we call an intensive care period here at Access Pay. You will receive roughly between 2 to 4 weeks communication from your implementation consultant. We'll still be there to help you if you've got any teething problems, and also during this period we will give a warm handover to our support and service delivery teams. And once you're with our technical support team, they will have a certain obligation to meet with you as a customer, and I'll just give you a highlight of some of the items that you can expect once you are live and with our technical support team. So we have regular releases once a month normally, and this is to ensure you have the latest version of the software. We also have SLAs and response times for any issues that you raise. These can vary in nature, so we have tiers 1 to 4. 1 being you'll be answered within an hour. 4, it might take 2 to 3 days depending on how busy we are as a business, but ultimately you normally will get an answer before the end of the day. Once you're live, you'll have access to all our new products and services. Here at Access Pay, our unified payment platform, is multi-tenanted, so we have all our customers on one platform, and what this means is that whenever any new development or functionality is requested by a customer, we will develop that and deploy that to the platform so it is available to everyone. So it just goes to show that the more people we get on the platform, the better it can be for you, the individual customer. For some of our customers, such as our Swift customers and our BACS customers, we offer support for regulatory compliance. So last year we embarked on a project where all our Swift customers had to be Swift compliant. We created Q&A sheets and fact sheets for this to help them become compliant by the end of the year this year. We also have a large dedicated product management team here at Access Pay with a wealth of knowledge. So we often provide blogs, posts, updates and information about the UK domestic finance and also what's happening globally as well. Andy touched on it before regarding GPI. So we do have a wealth of knowledge, and we like to share that with our customers and help them become more knowledgeable as well. And finally, probably one of the most important functions our support team is involved with is the customer satisfaction survey. You know, here at Access Pay, we like to receive feedback, good or bad, because every piece of feedback we receive, we review, and it helps us to build a bigger and better platform from our customers going forward. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just going to answer any questions that have come up in the chat for you. Okay, so we've got a question here from Jonathan. So I only operate 1 or 2 banking relationships. What's the benefit for me with automation? So it's a good point, because I mean there's an obvious benefit to large corporate organisations who have multinational bank accounts and a large number of institutions that they bank with, but there's definitely still a benefit to the smaller organisations as well, your kind of SMEs and small businesses who might only be using domestic payments. So while submitting payroll and supplier payments via BACS or faster payment direct to your bank is quite straightforward, that there's still that level of risk and security that's difficult to manage through those incumbent portals that the banks offer. So there's definitely an automation benefit from using the AccessPay BACS and FPS systems direct to scheme. You get all this benefit that the larger corporations get in this multi-tenanted platform, as Jack touched on, but you get that just for your domestic payments as well. So it's definitely something that everyone can get value from. Okay, so thank you very much for your time this afternoon, and the Webinet's recording will be shared amongst the participants as well. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.